278. When a router receives a packet, what does it do? Select 2. A. Determines if a destination route exists in the routing table and what the next hop is. B. Determines if a destination MAC address appears in the routing table. C. Looks at the destination IP address in the packet. D. Filters traffic based on destination MAC address. Answer. A. Determines if a destination route exists in the routing table and what the next hop is. C. Looks at the destination IP address in the packet. When a router receives a packet, it will first look at the destination IP address in the packet to determine where the packet is headed. Then the router will look to its routing table to determine if it has a route to that network. 279. What routes exist by default on your router? A. Static routes. B. Dynamic routes. C. Connected routes. D. Gateway of last resort route. Answer. C. Connected routes. Connected routes exist by default in your routing table and are routes that are there because the router is connected to those networks. 280. Which of the following represents one of the downfalls of static routes? A. They are shared automatically with neighboring routers. B. They are shared automatically with the entire network. C. They are manually configured by the router administrator. D. They generate network traffic to broadcast knowledge of the route. Answer. C. They are manually configured by the router administrator. When working with static routing as the network administrator, you are responsible for configuring each individual route on each router. If you work for a company with a large number of subnets, networks, then this could be a huge administrative burden. 281. Which of the following represents an advantage of static routing? A. Less administrative burden over dynamic routing. B. No network bandwidth is being used by protocols sharing routing tables. C. Easier to configure on the network than dynamic routing. D. Uses a higher administrative distance than dynamic routing protocols. Answer. B. No network bandwidth is being used by protocols sharing routing tables. One of the major benefits of static routing is that the administrator configures the routing tables, which means that the routers do not need to generate network traffic and share routing table information in order to build up each other's routing tables. 282. You are the administrator for router R1 and have configured a static route to the 216.83.11.0 network. Your company has loaded RIPv1 on all the routers on the network, and router R2 shares knowledge of a route to the 216.83.11.0 network with a RIP update. Which route will your router use? A. The default route. B. The static route. C. The RIPv1 route. D. The GWLR. Answer. B. The static route. Because a static route has a lower administrative distance than a dynamic route, the router will trust and use the static route over the dynamically learned route. 283. Which of the following two actions must a router do with an incoming packet in order to send it to its destination? Choose 2. A. Determine if a route exists in the routing table. B. Look at the source IP address of the packet. C. Determine if an entry exists in the MAC address table. D. Look at the destination IP address of the packet. Answer. A. Determine if a route exists in the routing table. D. Look at the destination IP address of the packet. When a router receives a packet, it will first look at the destination IP address in the packet to determine where the packet is headed. Then the router will look to its routing table to determine if it has a route to that network. 284. What is the process called that the IP protocol uses to determine if the system it is trying to communicate with is on a different network? A. Routing. B. ANDing. C. Mating. D. Switching. Answer. B. ANDing. ANDing is the mathematical process the IP protocol uses to determine if two systems are on the same network. 285. What is the command to delete a static root? A. No IP root. B. Root delete. C. Delete root. D. IP root delete. Answer. A. No IP root. You delete a static root using the no IP root command. Most Cisco commands can be negated by placing the word no in front of the command. 286. Your manager has disabled routing on the router by mistake. What command could you use to enable routing again? A. IP routing. B. No IP routing. C. Enable routing. D. No disable routing. Answer. A. IP routing. If you want to enable routing on your router, you can use the IP routing command. In order to disable routing, you use the no IP routing command. 291. You are the administrator for a small network made up of two routers. What is a quick method you can use to configure routing between all networks? A. Build static routes to all unknown routes on each router. B. Configure the GWLR on both routers to point to one another. C. Configure NAT overload on the first router and static NAT on the second router. D. Configure access lists to allow traffic to route between the networks. Answer. B. Configure the GWLR on both routers to point to one another. In order to have each router send data to networks it is unaware of, you can configure the GWLR for each router to reference one another. For example, when router A does not know what to do with a packet, it could forward to router B, and when router B does not know what to do with a packet, it could be sending to router A. 295. You are considering configuring default routes on your routers. Which of the following are benefits of default routes? Select 2. A. They allow communication to networks not appearing in the routing table. B. The routes never go down. C. The routes will take first priority. D. The routing table size is kept to a minimum. E. They are used to forward traffic from the Internet to your internal network. Answer. A. They allow communication to networks not appearing in the routing table. D. The routing table size is kept to a minimum. When you configure a default route, you are essentially telling the router where to send the data if the router does not know how to reach a certain network. For example, you could configure a default route on ROUTERA that says, if you do not know of a pathway for a particular network, send the data to ROUTERB and let him figure it out. 296. Which of the following describes the gateway of last resort? A. It is the address of the device on the network that converts FQDNs to IP addresses. B. The address that your router will forward a packet to when it does not have a route for that packet. C. It is the address of the device that translates private addresses to public addresses. D. It is the address of the router that shares routing table information on the network. Answer. B. The address that your router will forward a packet to when it does not have a route for that packet. The gateway of last resort is a default route that you can add to the router so that it forwards all packets for unknown destinations to a particular router that will then forward the packets on, using its routing table. 297. Your manager asks you what the purpose of a default route is on the router. What would you say? A. The default route takes precedence over the static route. B. The default route takes precedence over the RIPv2 routes. C. The default route is used when there is no other route to the destination. D. The default route takes precedence over the RIPv1 route. Answer. C. The default route is used when there is no other route to the destination. You can configure a default route, also known as the Gateway of Last Resort, GWLR, on the router so that when the router receives a packet to a destination network it has no route for, the router will use the default route as a way to deliver the packet. 299. What command is used to view your routing table? A. IP route show. B. Show IP route. C. Show route table. D. Table route show. Answer. B. Show IP route. The command to view your routing table is the show IP route command. 302. You are configuring router on a stick. Which of the following commands would create a subinterface on the router? A. Create subinterface 20. B. Subinterface FA0 over 0.20. C. Interface FA0 over 0.20. D. Config subinterface 20. Answer. C. Interface FA0 over 0.20. In order to create a subinterface, you would use the interface command and reference the physical interface followed by a dot, and then a unique number to represent the interface. 308. The router will use the route that has the space administrative distance. A. Highest. B. Lowest. Answer. B. Lowest. The route with the lowest administrative distance is always used. If there are two routes with the same administrative distance that could be used, the metric value is used. 309. Your router receives knowledge of a network via RIPv2 that it already has a static route to. Which pathway will be used? A. The static route entry. B. The RIPv2 entry. C. The default route entry. D. The packet will be denied. Answer. A. The static route entry. The static route would take preference over the RIPv2 entry because it has a lower administrative distance value. 310. What is the administrative distance of RIPv1? A. 1. B. 100. C. 120. D. 0. Answer. C. 120. The administrative distance, which is trustworthiness value of the route, is 120 for RIPv1 and RIPv2. The lower the administrative distance, the more preference the router puts on that route when there are two routes to the same destination. 311. What is the administrative distance of a connected route? A. 1. B. 100. C. 120. D. 0. Answer. D. 0. The administrative distance of a connected route is the lowest, O, because it is the most trustworthy type of route. 312. Which routing feature has an administrative distance of 120? A. Static. B. Connected. C. RIP. D. OSPF. Answer. C. RIP. The RIP routing protocol has an administrative distance of 120. 313. What is the administrative distance of a static route? A. 1. B. 100. C. 120. D. 0. Answer. A. 1. A static route has an administrative distance of 1, the second lowest administrative distance next to a connected route, which has an administrative distance of 0. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.